Welcome back to the Overthinking Podcast, the show for women navigating fitness, health, and life in a world that makes everything feel way more complicated than it needs to be. We're your hosts. I'm Kelsey.
And I'm Bree.
And if you're here, chances are you're tired of overthinking every fitness trend that demands us to shrink and has us feeling like we're failing at a system that never wanted to see us win.
And this podcast is your space for honest conversations, evidence-based guidance, so you can stop spiraling and start trusting yourself and build a better version of health. Today, we're talking about the latest drop from the people making America healthy. Finally?
This isn't the episode that's going to tell you what to eat. We have episodes 22, 23, and 32 for that. This is part of a larger conversation that's necessary to discuss what actually helps us live longer, healthier lives. We're discussing the quote-unquote new food pyramid and dietary guidelines, brought to you by the people that told you to question the government, yet now expect the general public to numbingly blind follow their every whim. That's showbiz, baby.
And before we get into what the new guidelines say, let's play our favorite little game.
This,
That.
that. Take it
And this
away.
one I came up with randomly. If you could cut out one thing, no driving for an entire year, no driving, or no coffee for a year. And the little cliff notes is you can be driven, but no driving for you.
You cannot operate a vehicle.
Yeah, you can't operate. And that's no driving anything. You can't drive a boat. You can't drive an RV, a ATV.
What about a scooter?
Yes. No scooting. No, actually,
What?
I don't know. Scooting's probably fine. Scooting and biking, yeah. But no vehicles, no machinery.
All right.
And you can have tea, but you can't have decaf. You can't have coffee things. And you can't even have espresso martinis.
Oof.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm choosing no driving, which would suck because public transit in California sucks. Fortunately, you're in Chicago and you at least got some options available to you.
Sure. But you catch me walking a single block in negative 13-degree weather, call for help.
So are you choosing giving up coffee for a year?
No, don't let me steal your thunder. You keep going. I don't want to influence you.
I must have coffee, so I'm going to choose no driving for a year. Unfortunately, my commute to work in most places is a few miles. I can make it. I can figure it out.
And I feel like your husband would love to drive you for a year. He would
Totally.
love nothing more.
If I got to be passenger princess all the time, that would be his greatest wish.
That would be his greatest joy. And then he could keep all of his cars in the driveway.
Yes.
Okay. I would do no coffee for a year. I do not like the idea that I can't just hop in my car and go somewhere. Yeah. So that's just it. I would give up coffee in a heartbeat. I gave up coffee for a couple months earlier this year because or last year. And yeah, you miss the ritual and that stuff. But I felt after taking out coffee for a week or two, my natural energy kind of kicked in and I was fine.
Yeah.
But the ritual,
I know, but you could do a mushroom coffee or whatever those substitutes are. You could find a way.
Yeah. Yeah. They have an abundance of those in California. In Chicago, we do not. We don't even have, never mind. Let's get into it. I'm feeling particularly bitter about Chicago today, okay? Because it's just really cold. It's going to be negative 13 degrees on Saturday. And I'm just feeling a little bitter and cold today.
We had a little moment trying to get this episode started, so that adds to the frustration for Chicago.
And I don't go into the office on Thursdays, but I still had to sit in the same fucking traffic. We would do anything for you guys.
We made it.
We made it. So let's get into our topic. Today we're breaking down what's changed in the new dietary guidelines, what's good, what's confusing, and why the real problem isn't actually lack of nutrition information, but actually a lack of guidance for practical application. Does anyone even remember the old food pyramid? From, what was it, the 70s when it was implemented? Honestly, the old food pyramid lives in the same mental space as dial-up internet and your middle school AIM username. It existed. It's just not.
What was your username? What was your first AIM name?
I had 2 that I remember. One was Swimmer Girl 17. How was that not taken also? Like, how many Swimmer Girl 17s were there out there?
I love that.
Um, and then the other one was A Little Bit Naughty 17.
That's so funny. So mine was all Hollister 69.
Shut the fuck up. She threw a 69 in her.
It goes with your naughty, like a little naughty.
We were
As
just trying to be
if
rebels. We were rebels without a cause.
I was trying to be cooler than I was. Fortunately, I did not peak in high school. Yep. We're gonna leave it there because I'm gonna go down a rabbit hole. But usernames, they lived, they existed. It was a time. And let's be honest, most people under 25 probably don't remember the original food pyramid. But for the rest of us, yes, the bread base, the tiny fats at the top. But most importantly, the general public likely doesn't remember because it wasn't practical.
Yeah.
Did you ever learn the food pyramid or anything
Oh,
in
hell
school?
yeah. Oh my god, they actually, like, taught it to us. Like, I
Yeah.
remember being told eating bread and pasta was good, and come to find out 30 years later, I'm allergic to gluten.
Right. So, like, sure, it outlined what quote unquote healthy foods were, but people didn't follow it. The old pyramid didn't make us fat, but it didn't provide the skills or any utility for healthy eating. Or, we'll get into this, I'll go down my rabbit hole, resolve economic disparity at all. And a little quick factual beat is the original USDA pyramid launched in 1992, which is why we learned it in school. You and I were both born in the 90s, so coming up, that's what we learned. This was discontinued in 2005 and was replaced with the My Pyramid, which is kind of like the callback to this new one. And then in 2011, we had the My Plate.
And my plate was such a solid stepping stone in the right direction because it was visual. It actually showed what a balanced plate should look like, with half the plate coming from fruits and veggies and the other half coming from grains and proteins and healthy fats. And like the little like dairy cup at the top, it was like still speaking to dairy a little bit like the newer one. But more importantly, it spoke to the importance of physical activity. And it was accomplished by the Let's Move initiative to address childhood obesity by bringing together faith-based community organizations and also communities. This aimed also to provide families with just simple tools to promote better eating habits and moving more. This also included free resources like a tracker to understand your current diet, planning for better alternatives, and just helped you track your movement. And we talk about this all the time on the podcast. You can't change what you don't track. And I do think that My Plate was such a right stepping stone for the practical application part as well. I use a lot of tracking systems with my clients, and we've talked about this in our previous episodes, but specifically around nutrition, the main nutrition system that is like so tried and true for maybe thousands of my female clients now over the 12 years is first things first, you start with what is the easiest. And usually it's just directing focus to protein. So we build our clients up to protein, 1 gram per pound of body weight, which we'll get into more of like what the standards are being recommended to us now. But then we move into the plate method, which is very similar to the My Plate, where I paint the picture for the client of like, this is how many carbs, this is how much fat, da da da. And then we'll move into more hand portions. So, like, my outstretched hand is what I would now consider a serving size of protein. This is about 50 grams of protein for most people, 50 to 60, and then a cupped handful for carbs. And then if I was to fill my thumb up with oil, that would be the serving size of oil or, a small handful of nuts. And then we go into macro tracking if they want to do that. But most times, this is like the biggest thing that I wish I could scream from the rooftops, most times when we just start focusing on protein and just like building a plate correctly, most women don't even get to the desperation point where they need to track macros,
Yep.
right? And a lot of times people back into having to track macros because they're like, I'm so frustrated. I'm so frustrated. But then they'll have these, excuses. Tracking food is time consuming, or what's the
On
reality?
on that note, I feel like the operations are often like jumbled and confused because people will start with macro tracking when they have no skills in nutrition already. Like macro tracking, using a tracker requires a lot of awareness and skill. Like if you just think you're going to go into MyFitnessPal and you know exactly how many grams of rice you have in without weighing it, like, you're probably not gonna be sustainable there. When the plate method or looking at, like, a hand portion example is gonna be way more practical, and then when you are highly skilled and you get to a point where you do have seasons of maintenance and then a deficit and then a maintenance and a deficit, and you're methodical about it, that's where we can really get into the macro tracking, but it you really have to be skilled in order to be there.
Yeah, and that's a great point, is that a lot of people are like, "Okay, I'm gonna start my weight loss or my fitness journey," and they go right to macro tracking, but then they get, like, bummed out because they have there's so much that's unknown, and it just feels scary, and then it feels hard, and then they ultimately give up, and that is where a lot of our probably now clients have found themselves, and we found ourselves so many times over the years, like, "New year, new me, I'm so excited to get on track. I'm gonna track food and get a program going," and then all of a sudden, tracking food feels really time consuming because you don't know what you're doing yet, and it is time consuming, right?
Yeah.
And then you're just like, "Oh, I don't wanna track food. I'm not hitting my macros right," but really, a lot of us who have been more senior in tracking macros, we don't wanna face the guilt that has been bred into us of, like, carbs are bad and da 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 da, but really, like, it just makes us more and more and more confused. So, I think the like, my plate movement and my plate program was totally a step in the right direction.
Yep. I think it sounds great. And so we have to ask the question, like, why didn't it stick, right? Well, to be fair, this administration probably didn't give it credit because it was developed under the Obama administration,
Yep.
specifically our girl, Michelle Obama,
Our queen.
our queen, who took the lead. And once again, society ignoring the ideas of Black women and ignoring the tried and true in favor of flashy gimmicks and scams. So
Yeah.
now instead, we've decided to reinvent the wheel again, and this time regressing over 20 years ago.
Yeah. So what's actually going on? All right. The new food pyramid is flipped upside down. We have an inverted triangle as our food pyramid for the next 5 years. And the structure, is different. It's flashy, and they slapped a tagline on there that said "Eat real food." And we're like, "Okay,
Got it.
nice." And the same people who are really stuck with tracking food are probably the same people that I'm sure we're all aware we need to eat more fruits and vegetables, and we hear about protein constantly, but then they use this terminology like, "end the war on protein." Like, there's not been a war on protein. In fact, we've been saying from the rooftops that we want everyone to eat more protein. So
If
I
you
don't
walk
know.
into a Costco, the entire middle section by the checkout is all protein. It's protein bars, protein shakes, protein oatmeal, protein everything. We don't have a war on protein. No one, like, people are aware.
Yes, and actually there was a study that showed the highest, sought after foods were health foods. People want to eat healthy, that's not the problem, and it's not a motivation issue, it's that they don't know how to practically apply what they're being told when they're sitting down at a work lunch or on a date night, right? So it's just like this recycled advice with a new aesthetic to try to like make it look cool. And it doesn't actually give people the tools that they need to both understand food and understand nutrition, but also like how to get that food in the house. Like, we should have a healthy food shopping class, right? And also the last part, and I'll let you kind of take it away on this one, it's just full of contradiction after contradiction.
Yep. Yep. And some examples, if you actually go read their guidelines and or look at the pyramid, it places meat and cheese at the top as priority, but messaging also says limit your saturated fats to 10%. This would be pretty hard to do if you're eating as much dairy, red meat, cheese, and beef tallow as it outlines. And also,
And
I will,
butter, just like
and
straight up
butter.
butter.
Yeah, butter, a block of butter was like high up on the pyramid. And also, like, most people don't even know what a saturated fat is. So, unless we are actually like instilling more nutrition education somewhere into our public education or whatever it is, then we're not going to get the message across. But, and then another thing was whole grains were also pushed down to the bottom. It's almost like they forgot about it. So they were like, oh, yeah, whole grains at the bottom, despite strong evidence for fiber improving heart health and blood lipids. And you'd get fiber from sources like bread grains, rice, beans, and legumes. So if
Yep.
you're saying these are not a priority, then people are going, we're going to see higher rates of disease.
And they were making these like little digs at vegans and vegetarians saying that it's not like a complete diet. It's like this is, and then they knock, which like the main part of vegan and vegetarian diet. It just, it seems icky, right? It just seems like a little bit like bullying. So we're telling people eat more of the thing we're telling you to limit. It's like so unclear and then weird jabs. But here's the real issue. We don't have an information problem. Like I said, we have an application problem, and people know they should be eating vegetables. We know we should be eating fruits. But what they don't know is how to shop on a budget, how to cook with limited time, how to actually read nutrition labels and what things on labels matter, how to plan when everything is really expensive or when you have a big family, and what to do in a food desert. Like, what even is a real food desert?
I'm happy to go down this rabbit hole. So we can all relate to everything being so goddamn expensive. Am I
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
Socioeconomic factors play greatly into our dietary patterns, as well as our movement habits and ultimately our body weight status. A huge population of Americans live in food deserts and food swamps. About
Uh-huh.
19 million Americans to be exact. This means low access to fresh foods and high access to ultra processed items. Think like no nearby grocery stores and fast food chains on every single block. The quote unquote eat real food without addressing cost, access, or time isn't guidance, it's just a bumper sticker. For
And
example, for example, what's the closest grocery store to you?
Mariano's. It's like a
How
Ralph's.
can you walk?
Yeah.
Great, me too. I have two that I can walk to. So if we imagine what a food desert is, it's National City in San Diego, it's a big metropolitan city that's more affordable for families, and their closest grocery store is probably 10 miles. Yeah.
Another thing that I think is worth pointing out is that there are a lot of programs being cut too for access to healthy food. And that's a huge piece of, again, it's an access problem. It's not an information problem. Your
Yep.
zip code has one of the biggest determiners on your health. And when they make it personal responsibility there at the end of their tagline, it's like, oh, look, we're going to cut all of your SNAP benefits and all these things that could actually get low income people some access to real food. We're going to cut all that out, but then we're going to demonize you for not eating good food, but it's too expensive and the healthy food market is on the rise, just like the supplements. And I can go down this rabbit hole, but what I'm trying to say is that when we're cutting, all these things for programs for better access to food, and then we're not actually educating people how to fuel themselves in those scenarios, we're just constantly fueling a problem, which also is socioeconomic and very polarizing.
We're fueling a culture war, and that's what we
Yeah.
have. We have
Yes.
these people up with their privilege who are speaking from a probably just chat GPT. They don't actually know anything about health policy. And they're cutting nutrition programs. Their school lunch standards and affordable school lunch are rolled back. We have public health funding reduced. And also, this is a big one. If they really wanted to make America healthy again, they wouldn't be loosening environmental protections. Hello, more airborne particles and PFAS. Anyone? I'm not going to try to pronounce what that stands for, but it basically is chemicals that are broken down into our air and water that are known to cause cancer and other harmful effects. And of course, not to mention scientific agencies being undermined.
Yep. And the messaging becomes all about, like what I said before, this like personal accountability, which sounds empowering and like we are all about personal accountability, right? But
Absolutely.
this is being used as a weapon. Okay. They are bullying us by saying personal responsibility, but it's up to you to make sure that you know what you're doing because you can't personal accountability your way out of systemic barriers. Food has become a moral imperative. Good versus bad. This is a good food. This is a bad food. This is clean. This is dirty. This is worthy. This is unworthy. You can have this. You don't get to have this. Has bullying ever helped anyone improve?
Right. Yeah, I think to what you're saying, you can't have personal accountability without compassion. Like good coaches and the people that actually help people change their lives, like you and I, we can encourage people to take responsibility for their behaviors, but do it from a compassionate lens.
Yeah, and every time someone who is maybe low income is gonna go and buy a lunch and they're like, "I know I should be eating protein, but this is what I can afford, and I don't have any support from the government that's telling me eat more real food." I can't. I have to feed a family. It just
Yep.
feels like it's a never-ending cycle. So we're not in these scenarios with people who don't have access to real food, but what we can do is actually keep educating and keep sharing the truth of what's going on, like with this inverted pyramid.
Yep. Yep. We can instill knowledge on the culture war and help people decipher what's this or that.
Yeah, and the whole I like the term that you're using, like, culture war, because it does very much feel that way, and when I said, zip code is a large determinant of your health, that also goes into safety standards too, and I think there's a huge movement in the fitness culture of wanting to be strong, wanting to be powerful, wanting women to be powerful, so the fitness movement over here is, like, doing all of this, like, "We've been eating protein for decades, dude, come on."
Come
And then
to the
the
round
other
table.
side is like Dinosaurus, where they're like, "Okay, we want women back in the kitchen again. We want you to make more babies, da, da, da." And all that stuff is very much happening,
Yeah.
but there's still an application miss on both sides.
Right.
We are not
Right.
being taught how to eat well.
Right. And another thing I wanted to point out is that we've been dealing with political meddling in health policy for a long fucking time. It's
Long
not
time.
just this administration, so we'll give them a sliver of grace. But there is documented evidence that agriculture and food industries have a powerful influence on these guidelines throughout history. For example, lobbying groups for cattle, dairy, grain, and meat. All of these are commoditized subsidies. These heavily favor corn and soy, which is a huge political currency for processed foods that ultimately shapes messaging. So there are advisory committees like the National Cattlemen's Association, National Dairy Council, aka Big Pork and Big Big Dairy,
Big
that help.
pork.
Big Pork. Big Pork doesn't want you to know that.
No.
But basically they help shape the guidelines, and this is
Right.
relevant for understanding the context around the new pyramid, who funds it, and in these new guidelines, the International Dairy Foods Association applauded the inclusion of an emphasis on full-fat dairy. Is that not
Mhm.
suspicious?
It looks real
The
sus to
American
me.
the American people are demanding better, but we're not getting it from the American Make America Healthy Again movement. The call is coming from inside the house.
Ring, ring, and let's try to find some let's try to find some light within the shit, because to be fair, this is one legitimate improvement is the protein, and we can all get behind this. Again, they're just rinse and repeating what bodybuilders and everyone's been saying for years, like, even if you rewind all the way back to, like, Atkins diet and all of those, like, even, like, the all of those. We're all focusing on protein. Every single thing. The bulletproof diet, paleo diet, zone, keto. Everything has always been focused on.
Keto.
No one has really demonized protein, so I don't know what this whole war is about. But I can get behind this. And the old RDA recommendation was zero point 0.8 per kilograms of body weight, whereas now the new recommendation is 1.2 to 1.6 per kilogram of body weight, which actually aligns with modern research for muscle maintenance, satiety, and metabolic health. So we will give credit where credit's due.
One thing, because I love picking things apart, is, and this is true for every dietary guideline, is can we agree to just use pounds or grams or kilograms? Like, can we just pick? Why do we continuously
And for
try to
the
get people to
United States being
do
so
math?
elitist, you think we'd figure it out.
We're adding more hurdles and obstacles. You think that these hard, strong, hard charging American flag touting dudes would be like, I'm not using kilograms. I'm going to use my freedom units. Like, why are we still using kilograms? If you
I
want
don't
people to understand something, make it easy to understand. So, say it would be half, so zero point 0.8 per pound, right?
like, wouldn't it be really cute if they just gave us the equation? Like, wouldn't it be cute if they were like, here's how to eat, here's how to get how many grams of protein. But then Now people are going to be like, oh, was that grams in weight? And and us coaches are going to be like, no, it's the amount of protein when you plug it into a calculator, but you're not going to do that. So why are we even giving this when we're not just saying you should be eating about this much per meal? It still just baffles me because people don't want to see the number. They don't want to do the numbers. They want to be
Yeah.
shown. We are largely visual beings, and the more we show it, the better it is. So, the other thing I wanted to touch on is we talked a little bit about they talked about sodium in the new guidelines as well, and that is
Mm.
something that I find to be a good call out because with people hopefully prioritizing more whole foods and eating more in the house, our sodium consumption goes down largely when we don't go out to eat for a lot of our meals. So for this population who might be going out to eat or eating fast food multiple times a day, their sodium intake is going to largely decrease. And we know that sodium, potassium, chloride, all of these are electrolytes that we need. Obviously, they weren't the best from those types of foods, but now with a higher, focus on sodium, things like element and also, um, you know, pink salt, Celtic salt, um, all of these are like great to add to your diet
Yeah,
and like
totally. I
actually
agree with
salt
that.
your food. That helps with
Yep.
intracellular water and hydration. Hydration.
Yep. There was a movement when you and I were, like, coming up in the fitness industry too, like, early 2010s probably, where it was, like, all the salt-free seasonings and everyone was concerned about sodium and limiting it. It's like, if you, like, sweat a little bit and, like, work out, you'll be okay.
Yeah, you'd be surprised what 2,500 milligrams of sodium like actually looks like.
It's a
And
lot.
if it's a lot, and if you're cooking at home and you're doing a little sprinkle on your whole thing of ground beef, like add some more. Like your food is supposed to have taste, and it's called salt of the earth for a reason, So add some salt
Mhm.
in there, and seasonings also make your food taste better. We have so many episodes that say
Yep.
that. Kelsey could do a whole spice
Which
episode, I'm sure. But if you're
Yep.
someone who is like, okay, this is the year I'm going to get my shit into gear, and maybe this food pyramid has something to do with it or not, salt and season your food if you're cooking
Yep.
at home.
And it'll keep you wanting to eat that food. Like, if your food is bland, you're
Exactly.
not gonna wanna keep eating it. So, let's talk about what actually helps people. We can
Yes.
encourage people to, quote, unquote, "just eat real food" all we want. We can tell people what they should do all day long. But until we address what makes it hard for people to do those things, we will keep missing the mark, and so will this administration. Part of me wants to see them fail, and they will. They're doing that all on their own. But if we actually wanted to improve nutrition literacy, we'd teach you.
How to
Do you
build
want me to do
a
it?
simple plate, please. The plate method, how to shop affordably, how to read those nutrition labels and like read them accurately, how to batch cook things ahead of time, um, how we can manage eating patterns, work schedules, taking care of a family, and how that can be both time consuming and pricey. And then how to actually apply nutrition to real life. So when you're out on a date night or you're at a friend's birthday party, you're not sitting there, should I have the piece of cake or not? Should I have the piece of cake and know where it fits in in the landscape of your entire diet, right? Because
Right.
again, people don't need more slogans like "and the war on protein." No, we just need tools that are repeatable and scalable and make sense to us.
Yes. Yep. So the takeaway, flipping the pyramid doesn't fix the problem. Simplifying application and addressing the vast socioeconomic factors that affects health does. And we need to keep talking about it. Eat real food is fine advice, but without support, it's just confusing noise.
Yes, and if this episode made you feel slightly validated and maybe slightly annoyed, mission accomplished. We should be demanding better, and our goal has always been to help you divert the chaos for what actually works. So, as always, please share this with a friend if they've been asking you about what to eat, and chat with us on Instagram at overt_thinking podcast, at Brianna Lamb, two N's, and at Kelsey Michelle.
Stay curious, stay strong, and we will see you in the
In the
next
next episode.
episode.